Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Just Love Him podcast. We're your hosts, Anthony and Heather Garcia, and we are going to be continuing our dive into spiritual warfare.
Yep.
It seems to be I guess, kind of just a place where God's got us right now. And I don't know about you, but I know I've had some pretty big downloads
Well,
recently.
I think it's a hot topic right now, just because of what's happened in the last few weeks. I think it's come to light of it not being just a thing of just things happening. There's a spiritual battle, and it's not just on a big stage. It's on home fronts. It's in a Christian family's home. It's every day at work. There's spiritual warfare, and in my opinion, this is what I believe, that the devil, that he knows his time is up or the time is coming, and he is really just throwing the way the way Holy Spirit showed me was, he's like a child playing Uno who has three draw fours, two draw twos, and skips, and he is just throwing them left and right because he does not know what's happening, but he is just throwing them, and those things represent demons. And so he is coming after the home front, because if he knows he can ruin the home front and go and destroy the home front, the church will be ruined. And so it's just been hiding in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I had a friend reach out that she even said, she was like, well, my husband says this is spiritual warfare, and I don't even know what that is. So, and it's just funny because we're friends, and she came to me, which I think she already knew that that's
And they've
how
been
I
going
roll
to church.
anyway.
They've been
Yeah,
going to
they're
church all their
all their
life.
life,
All
all
their
their life.
life. They're
Yeah,
my age.
yeah,
And so the fact that they say that, that's sad. That's scary. But I shouldn't say that, because I've only learned about spiritual warfare in the
well, you
last
don't
few
know
years.
what you don't know.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
not know what you don't know.
Can't bury your head in the sand no more, because it's here. It's coming to your front door whether you like it or not.
Yes.
And so you can either be prepared for it, or you can call somebody who is, and maybe the Lord will let them help you, or you can learn how to fight. So here we go.
Yeah. And and honestly, we kind of got thrown into it. And today we have a special guest,
Hmm.
or two special guests on our podcast. And
Well,
they're
they're
kind of
they're one, so
there's
there's
one. The two are one. But they are the reason really that we kind of started walking. I mean, we've been getting prepared for this, but the Lord really threw us in the deep end with them.
Man, I gotta be
So
honest with you. The fact that when we first did this, I thought, when we got off the first time, I was like, Heather, are you sure? Because I mean, do they know who we? I mean, we don't know what we're doing. Kind of. We've sat under Joseph for a year, and we've learned so much stuff. And you guys are learning from Joseph also. But this was real life thing, and it was almost like Joseph's like, you're on your own. Y'all, you know what I mean? You're grown. You can do this. And so we have learned a lot, and we've grown a lot with them, but I know that they're going to be the people that are going to be doing this themselves.
yeah, because they're going to be sharing some of their story today. So
Mhm.
if y'all would help us welcome Kassidie and Kyle Taylor, and we're just excited to have y'all. We're
Yep.
we're excited that we're at a point where we're ready to start sharing, because that means y'all had victory, and that's great.
Yeah.
Happy to be
Yes.
here.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having us.
Hmm. Yeah, for the last few weeks, we started counseling them, and now we're just actually pouring into each other. And so, here's not the funny thing is, because I'm not a vain man that I should not take something from young people. They're 28 and 27 years old. We're 51, and you're what, 35?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And so now it's just become one of those things where we pour into each other and grow with each other. And so, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so my name is Cassidy. Like he was saying, I like to stick at 21, but I guess I'll say I'm 27 years old.
Yeah.
Um, I am a realtor. I'm a local realtor, but my main passion is actually in church, mainly in youth. Youth ministry is where my calling is. So right now, I'm diving in and I'm on fire, and I know I'm called to be a light of the world. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. I am absorbing as much as I can right now. I'm being as much of a sponge as I can be right now. And just learning everything from everyone who is willing to teach. And of course, using the discernment that the good Lord has blessed me with. And just, like I said, diving in.
I'm Kyle. I'm Kassidie's husband. It's been quite a journey being able to venture into all this stuff with Heather and Anthony. Like I said, we started this back in I think it was April, right? Was when we started this,
Hmm.
Yes,
and
sir.
it started as a counseling, and now, like I said, it's really turned into us just pouring into each other, and we've really fallen in love with the church, really uh, trying to spread the word as far and as wide as we can, uh, and really getting finding our roles in the church. And we found a home church here in where are we?
The Dallas
Cattle
area.
Dallas area. I don't know. We're in Cattle Mills, but it's probably not many people are going to know where Cattle Mills is. But yeah, in the Dallas area, and it's been a wild ride, and hopefully we can share our testimony here. And you know,
Yeah.
uh,
And you guys have a great testimony. I've said this before that I see you guys right now, and the first time I met y'all, how dark it was behind y'all. It was so
yeah,
dark, and how everything's just illuminated. Y'all just, it's just, it's not even. I hate to use the word crazy. It's awesome to see the way the Lord has just brought that light into y'all's home. It seriously was dark. I wish do we have the recordings of what?
We didn't record those.
Yeah, because it was just really dark, and I remember the first time going, "What are we doing?" Like, man,
what are we
I think
doing?
that they need somebody, and it was like the Lord was like, "No," like of course it was like my dad throwing me in the deepest water. You know what I mean? You're gonna learn how to do this from 10 feet. I'm like, well, everybody gets to try 3 feet. Well, not you. You're going in 10 feet. So that's the way the Lord is with me. But um,
The God glow is real.
Yeah, it really
yes, it
is.
Yes,
is.
it is.
It's very real. Let me ask you guys, how did it start with you guys? I know that let's go through kind of where I know that you grew up in a Christian home, both of y'all, but how it got started with you together when you came to the Lord.
Yeah, so actually we did not come uh together, Kyle and I, in the most Christian way. We grew up in Christian homes, but we definitely strayed. The ways of the world were enticing and it looked like a lot more fun. And
Mhm.
so my thought process was if I don't use the grace that God gives, I'm taking advantage of it. And if I and I am not perfect, Jesus is the one that's perfect, not me. So I don't have to act like I'm perfect. I can go out and sin and I'm good. Um, and then Kyle,
I would say I'm more along the lines of there was a time in my life where I actually was in rejection to all of it. I don't know if atheist is the word for it, but there was a time in my life I actually had the hatred, and I hate to say that, but it shows that where I've come from, and as I kind of came back around, because I came from a little bit of a rough childhood that kind of stemmed a lot of that. But as I came back around, just through uh, slowly through people God was strategically putting in my life, I got to the point where I recognized Jesus Christ and what He did for us, and I was very much lukewarm. That's where I stayed for a long time. Was okay. I know Jesus Christ died on the cross for me, and I'm good. Now I can go. Kind of like what Cass was saying, I can go do what I want now. I know I've accepted Jesus Christ, and at that point, I hadn't really cracked open a Bible or anything like that. And you know, faith without fruits, or what is it? I don't want to misquote it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Faith without fruits.
faith without
Yeah.
fruits is dead.
Faith without fruits.
Uh, and there's definitely a time in my life where I had no fruits whatsoever. I was living solely in the flesh, just going by my own personal desire and not picking up that cross every day, not crucifying my flesh. And it definitely, along with habits that I created when I was in total rebellion and total rejection of God, those habits that I developed in those times, it led to some heavy baggage that I brought in to our marriage. And like Cass was
Right.
saying, we didn't get together in the most Christian way. We were definitely fornicators and all that kind of stuff. Um, and it wasn't really until kind of our marriage hit a rock bottom is when we really started like, okay, we've got to get this together. And I know I hit my rock bottom when we were kind of at towards the beginning of our marriage too, because like I said, I brought a lot of baggage in. But I think that was the pivotal moment in our marriage that really brought us to this burning passion that we have for the Lord now. And just, I've always been the stubborn type, and unfortunately, I think that's what God knew that's what it was going to take. Is all right, you're going to
Yeah.
have to hit the ground hard for you to wake up. And I've always been hard headed, and man, he made sure that happened. But it worked. I got my feet under me. I really dove into the Word, started actually comprehending what I was reading. Um, and it's been a life-changing experience, especially us growing together and then actually living out what marriage is actually supposed to be, not just uh, two people shacking up together, and trying to
Yeah.
figure out life. We're actually trying to live by the marriage that God created and God intended us for us to have. And it's like I said, it's made a world of difference in our lives, how we are together, how we parent our children, how we conduct our household, all that. And like I said,
Mhm.
it's been amazing.
Well, I know how I met y'all, but Cassidy, you and Heather met at a retreat, right? That's where you all met. Okay.
Yes, yeah, Impact Over Influence with Shelly Zahn. It was a fantastic retreat. I cannot wait to go back this next year.
Mhm.
Because I just released the dates for it, so I am counting it down. But that retreat really sparked a lot for me in general. Um,
Mhm.
I had before that, I was reading my Bible and I was in church, and it was like I was a baby. I was a baby believer. It seemed like even though I had grown up in church and in Christian schools, I had just started reading for myself. And then I get an invitation. It was crazy the way it worked out. An invitation from somebody that I had known from church. And it was, hey, last minute, so a week of this retreat, they have one more spot open. Do you want it? I said, let me see if I can get childcare. Let me see if I can. I probably not. I don't think I'm going to be able to do all of this last minute. And
We scrambled to make it happen.
we did. And it was weird because first day, all of the answers were no, you can't go. But then after that, it was, I just got a resounding like, hey, childcare is figured out, payment is figured out. It was all just set up like, hey, you're going.
Mhm.
And I went, and that retreat really changed my life. And I mean, meeting Heather really changed my life. Getting to read her book. While I was there at the retreat, we were in small groups. We were all put in small groups, and we played a fun game. And the winner of that game actually received a copy of Just Love Him for free. And my group was, and I'm not one of the, like, every single group I'm in, it's a very rare occurrence that I win at some kind of trivia game.
You and
Okay.
me both. I never win.
It's bad,
I,
but
I
we
cheated when
won.
I was 9 years old at a church thing.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But my group ended up winning. I got a copy of Just Love Me or Just Love Him. And Heather the next day ended up coming up to me and asking, hey, can I borrow a copy of your book? And I was like, yeah. Also, can I talk to you? Because unfortunately, like me and my husband, we're kind of going through some stuff right now. Can I actually talk to you? She's like, yeah, absolutely. And so she signed my book for me afterwards, and we got contact information. And I went, I hunted her down afterwards and was
Yeah.
like, hey, I know this is so random. There were 100 girls at this retreat. I don't know if you remember me, but you borrowed my book and you signed it.
I want it
Do
back.
you, yeah, right. Do you think we could talk? Because me and my husband have just hit a rough patch. And reading into what your book is about, I really think you might have some insight to help me. And after that, after y'all agreed to take us on, um, which we really appreciate,
Yeah.
it's just been one transformation after another, one
Mhm.
encounter after another, because of the different just exercises and prayers and just declarations, and pointing out different verses in the Bible to declare over our house, over our family, over our lives. It has changed us completely. The deliverance has been, I don't recognize the people we used to be. I
Yeah.
mean, when we say we were in sin, I mean, we were adulterers, fornicators, we were just living a life of sin with Jezebel and Ahab spirits around us. Like, it was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And you just didn't know
y'all,
either.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. We just kind of thought that's it. That's what life is.
Yeah.
But
And unfortunately, when you live like that for so long, you when you live like that for so long, your conscience becomes hardened to that. So I mean,
Yeah.
at first it's like, yeah, I know this is wrong, but the more you do it, the more God hands you over to that sin. And we were definitely falling victim to that too. Well, I probably shouldn't say victim, but yeah, I think you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, you said earlier, you mentioned I brought a lot of junk into the marriage. There's a roll off to that because when you went to the retreat, you saw something, or the Lord showed something to you, Cassidy. And it's funny, whenever Heather and I, when we got together, we shared with you guys, and we've shared with a lot of people, and it's in the book how I brought way more junk than she did. But whenever you brought that in, um, there was a lot of stuff that was highlighted in that. Kyle, do you want to talk about some of the stuff you brought into the marriage? Because I'm not saying that you and I were a lot alike, but we kind of brought in more than the other one did. But the thing about that is people don't think about that when they come into a relationship or a marriage or they want to get married. Maybe they want to get married. They don't think about the stuff that they're dragging in, all the relationships that they've had, all the stuff from being children, the way we were treated as men and or boys and girls. And so when you roll that into a marriage, you think, well, we're just going to have a good time. We're going to just whatever. But it snowballs into this huge thing that becomes a mess. And then then I get involved in it for some reason. I'm just kidding. No, and it's one of those things where I recognized it, but tell us a little bit about some of that stuff, how the Lord exposed some of that in your life that that actually triggered some of the I guess the warfare, the spiritual warfare that ended up in y'all's home where we were, how we were brought into this.
So I want to make sure you guys can hear me because the mic's a
Yeah.
little messed up. A lot of how it began, it definitely started in my childhood. Like I said, I didn't have the greatest childhood growing up. Heavy-handed father. My mom passed away when I was 8, and it just kind of really blew up from there. I left home when I was 15, 16, and from that point, I was kind of really I kind of turned into a gypsy, really. I kind of more so on my own, went to try to live with family. And then obviously all the baggage that I had from my childhood, it blew up on them. So while I was still in high school, I started living with girlfriends and all that kind of stuff. And again, kind of backtracking a little bit, when I was a kid living in my father and stepmother's house, uh, you know, I, the environment wasn't great. My sister and I, we were under heavy stress all the time. So unfortunately, one of the addictions that I got at that time when I was very young, which I didn't know was opening contracts, was a pornography addiction. And I think a lot of young men fall into that in this age, and it's sad when you stop and think about it. But when I was 12 years old, first getting into that kind of stuff, never did I dream that would have an effect on future marriages or anything like that. And it most certainly did. So, kind of fast forwarding, like I said, I started living uh, with girlfriends while I was in high school, and living that lifestyle. Just kind of doing what I wanted to as a teenager. As a teenager, you think you know everything. You really don't. Um, but it keeping that kind of secular lifestyle, watching the porn, always thinking about girls chasing women, all that kind of stuff, and not really digging into God's word. Um, all that time I was making contracts with the enemy, and this is stuff that I had no idea what I was doing at that time. It was just, to me at that time, it was just fun. And I don't remember if it's from you guys that said it or our pastor at the church, but somebody said it as sin is a really good analogy. Sin is really fun in the beginning. It's like a chain. You're building it link by link, and you don't realize how heavy it gets until you've been building it forever. And then all of a sudden, you realize you're chained to the wall, and that thing's 50 feet long and weighs, I don't know, 200 pounds or something like that, and you can't get out of it. But while you're sitting there doing it and you're making this little link, it doesn't seem like anything, and you just keep adding to that chain over and over and over again. Uh, the due eventually comes. Eventually, you're going to pay that debt. And like I said, I didn't know that. And then fast forward to uh, I guess not quite our marriage yet. I was married before this, my second marriage. My first marriage that I had, again, it was one of those situations. I was just messing around, and a girl that I was dating right out of high school, she got pregnant, uh, and I did what I thought I was supposed to do, was settle down. All right, you made that happen. You're going to marry her, make it work, and that was the basis that I married her on. Again, not realizing the baggage that I was bringing into that, and also the sin that was created in that in itself. Because again, like I said, we were fornicators at that time. Uh, so obviously, that marriage was kind of set up to fail because one, I wasn't correcting my own issues. I was still adding to them because I still had my lust addictions at that time, and I didn't really think anything of it. And at that time, I wasn't quite in the Bible yet. I was getting a little bit lukewarm. I'd had a decent figure from one of the girlfriends I was with. Her grandfather actually really got to me, and he kind of had the similar lifestyle that I had growing up. And he was a really good Christian man, and he stopped that hard rebellion because after my mom died, like I said, I had that hatred. I was like, how could you take her? Went down that spiraling road, and really stuck in the hatred there for a long time. And because of that, I was an angry kid. But he kind of snapped me out of that, and that's kind of when I went into my lukewarm stage. Like, okay, I know who Jesus is, but he died on the cross and he saved me from my sins. I'm good. I can do what I want. And I really slipped into that lukewarm state of being a Christian. Uh, so my first marriage failed. I didn't make good choices. She didn't make good choices either. But I definitely played my part in it because of the baggage that I brought into that marriage, and a lot of it had to do with my lust addictions and all that kind of stuff. And then Cass and I, at the end of that marriage, while my divorce was still in papers, hers was either in papers or finalized. There was like no time in between. Her and I kind of started messing around together, and like I said, we were very much together in that secular lifestyle. And again, during that time, we were signing contracts with the enemy, and we had no idea, and we were setting ourselves up for uh, the disaster that's coming. And during that time, like I said, she got pregnant, and but that time I'd learned my lesson. I wasn't going to go straight marry her yet, but I tried to fix it. It still wasn't the greatest fix, but we settled down. We started going to church together. She's actually the one who got me back into church, and we started going back in 22. I think is when we really started going to church every weekend
Right after
on
the son
Sunday.
was
Right after our son was born, we really started getting it. And I started sitting in churches, and I feel like that's when the Holy Spirit really started kind of easing in on me. It was like, hey, there's some stuff he's talking about that's like that I need to change that. It started grabbing my attention on little things here and there. Uh, and then we get to it was just last year when I hit the bottom, was in Father's Day of last year, 2024. Cass got me a Bible, and it was my first Bible that I'd had in a long, long time. And I finally actually started sitting down and reading it. And obviously, the conviction starts coming as I'm reading the Word and really getting into it. And then a business trip comes up for the company I was working for at that time, and so I went on the business trip, and I had one of those. I took my Bible with me. But I was still kind of in that lukewarm state, and I was trying to get rid of the lust addictions and all that kind of stuff. But while I was off on that business trip, I had that last, like, you know what? This is my one. I'm really digging into this, but I'm gonna have my one last hoorah. I started being shady with the stuff I was doing, talking to the anonymous chat rooms, all that kind of stuff. Uh, really giving into that flesh desire and stepping away from God. And that's when Cass found it. Yeah, I had an Apple Watch or something like that. She logged onto it, saw the messages. And of course, she's confronting me like, hey, what's going on here? And that's kind of when it all just blew up in our faces. And that's when I hit rock bottom and realized, one, the Holy Spirit hit me the hardest with the convictions like, okay, you've been reading my word. You know how you're supposed to be acting. Now you're going to actually feel the consequences of it. And it burned. I thought I was about to lose her. I mean, I was supposed to be out for a week up in Michigan. I came home Tuesday night. This happened Monday. No, that Sunday is when I flew up there. Monday night is when she caught the messages and stuff. So Tuesday I made it home because I was like, I've messed up bad. I got to go home and fix this. And I would say that my conscience really had started coming back at that point, and I felt the weight of it, and I didn't want to lose her. Well, I'd figured we had finally gotten to the point where we were living a marriage that we were supposed to live, but I still had this backdoor addiction that I didn't want to bring out to, especially not to her, because I was like, you know what, I'll heal it in the background. It was something. It was like a long process. I was like, I'll get it taken care of. I'll get it myself. I'll get it taken care of, and it's not something that I had given to God just yet. So after that blew up in our face, that's when I finally came to Cass, and I was like, oh, we prayed about it. I finally gave it over to God. Um, we started. I mean, she had a lot of forgiveness that she had to give to me during that time. She had a lot of patience. She really doesn't. I'm very blessed that she is still here next to me. But it during that time, like I said, that it was that rock bottom that really woke me up, and then we started studying more so together. And then Cass went on her retreat, and that it was a 3-day retreat, right? I think something like that. And during that time, so she went on her retreat, I started fasting, and I did a 3-day complete fast. And I had a revelation with the Holy Spirit saying, okay, you've got almost all of this out. You've got some things that you're holding on to that you need to confess to your wife, and you need to confess to me and get it out completely. And it hit me like a sack of bricks. And I had a buddy of mine from church that I was doing the fast with, and I called him up on the phone and told him the revelation I had. You know, I was blubbering like a whale too, like the emotions were strong with it. And so when Cass came home from her after being poured into all weekend and being in a great mood, she comes home to me, just letting the floodgates open and letting the last bit of it out. And she's like, well, you know, I just had a great weekend. Now come home to this. So that's when she texted Heather and was like, hey, this is what we've got going on. This is what we've been dealing with. We're right on I think at that point we were right on the cusps of moving past it. But like I said, Cass had some forgiveness that she needed to give me. And I had some stuff that I still needed to find deliverance from, and contracts that I had made that I needed to void at that point. And that's when Heather and Anthony really stepped into our lives and started coaching us and becoming those spiritual guides.
And as soon as that happened, for lack of better words, all hell broke loose in our house.
It really did.
Well, that's what I was just actually thinking about, because I was gonna have y'all touch on that, because here's a pretty typical response of the enemy, you know, and this is actually how spiritual warfare works, is when you've opened the doors in your lives, most people, especially being adults, would be like, well, I'll just suffer the consequences, you know, I'm an adult. But what we don't realize is it's not just us who pays a price. You know, it can be a generational thing. You can open up generational curses in your bloodline through the disobedience. And honestly, it could literally be something that you're walking in as a generational curse. And so that's exactly kind of what happened. And the devil, when he sees you getting rid of that, then he's like, okay, well, we're going to double down, and I'm going to like expose everything, because he overplays his hand, right? He always overplays his hand.
The terrible card player.
He is a terrible card player. But, and so then he sees the healing y'all are getting, and then we bring in James. So tell us about kind of where that went from there, how it kind of came into y'all are fixing to walk in healing, and then all of a sudden, as Cass puts it, all hell breaks loose.
Well, let's roll into that, but let me ask Cassidy, because we know from your standpoint of view what you went through with that. But for women out there that would hear something like that, especially coming off from a retreat, coming into that, you know, tell us a little bit how that made you feel, Cassidy, and how, because the Lord's already working on you, and it's a good thing, right? I'd be like, thank God she was at this retreat, because if it had been any other time, you know what I mean? She probably would have came home and packed her bags and left, but
Kept my bags packed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, well, so it was back in June that he had hit June of 24 that his retreat or his business trip was. And that's when I found the messages and found out that he was talking to women, sending and receiving pictures and videos and such. And unfortunately, I got to see enough of it. Um, and I had walked through forgiveness. And I mean, it is by the grace of God. I know we hear Heather say it all the time, but it is so true because it is by the grace of God alone that that forgiveness was there. If I was walking in this on my own, we wouldn't have made it. We would not have made it. And it was very hard because of this is actually my second marriage too, and because of certain things that I had found out about my previous marriage, this was something very big for me that we had talked about for a long time before I found out any of this. And he was supposed to be the one that didn't do anything like this. And then it was there. So it was hard. It was very hard to move past it, but like I said, by the grace of God, we got past it. And then by the time we got to the retreat, it was almost like we were on the uphill, but I got nervous before leaving because I'm like, we haven't been apart since your business trip. And now I'm going to be gone for 3 days overnight. What are you going to be doing while I'm gone? So I was already worried about that going into the retreat. But then I don't know what it was after that very first, I guess, sermon that we had there at the retreat. It was about surrendering it all. And that's exactly what I did. And it was like every single word that was spoken towards me directly. They will just surrender it all and give it all to God. And it was like a weight lifted off of me that I had almost grown so accustomed to, I didn't realize it was there. But as soon as it was off, it was like I was breathing for the first time in a very long time. And I was like, and I realized in that moment, I did not forgive him really until I laid it at Christ's feet, until I surrendered it to him. And of course, it's a daily thing to forgive someone, but at that moment, I knew it was possible. And I was no longer holding on to the anger and the bitterness of it. And I go throughout the retreat, and they said it multiple times during this retreat. It was not a retreat. It was boot camp. It was Bible boot camp. We were working out our spiritual muscles. I was so filled, but so exhausted at the same time. And then I drove, I think it's like 3.5 hours back home the last day, and I was exhausted, but I was so full. I was just ready to spill everything that happened and just tell Kyle everything.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never believe this. Like, let me sit you down and go over all of my notes with you. And we have to do it right now because this is going to change your life too. And I was so excited. And before I could even really set my bags down, Kyle took me to the table and said, "Hey, so I have to tell you something. I know what happened back in June happened, but it happened again here recently, and I didn't tell you about it." And it was like I was so inflated, not even just with air, it was like helium. I was so inflated and just floating, and it popped me. And it was like I came crashing right back down. And when you're at the bottom, you get used to being at the bottom. And then when you get up a little bit, it feels so good. So whenever you hit the bottom again, it hurts like twice as hard.
Yeah.
And it just felt like everything around it. I was like, well, why did I even go? I was questioning the retreat. I was questioning God. I was questioning everything. I was like, why does this happen? And so it was really just out of complete desperation that I reached out to Heather because, I mean, it's not just me and Kyle here. I mean, I love him with a love that I don't even know how to explain.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also my son, and I come from a broken family. He comes from a broken family. My stepdaughter has a broken family now. That is the last thing I will do is allow my son to have a broken family. And so I knew I had to do everything to get this fixed. And I was just looking for what's going to fix us the fastest so that we can move on.
Mhm.
Well, and the
came to
enemy
me.
knows. The enemy knows how to hit and when to hit. You know, he doesn't
Yeah.
wait until you're prepared or you're he doesn't want you to be physically fit for the fight. He actually is
Right.
going to wait until
You're tired.
you are not, either you're so tired and worn out you don't know if you can fight anymore, or your guard's down because you're on an emotional high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He did that. He don't play nice.
No, he does not.
Heather says he doesn't play nice. Um, but yeah, it hit me hard. And once again, though, just by the grace of God, it was honestly just thorough communication between Kyle and I every single day, about just our day and just talking to each other, bringing up the scriptures that we read during the day, making sure that God was in the center of our marriage 24/7, not just on Sunday mornings.
Mhm.
Um, it that started the change, and it started. I try to put band-aids on my heart and just patch it up, because when something goes wrong, I want to patch it up and move forward, but
Mhm.
I never deal with it. And then slowly but surely, it always comes back and finds a way to hurt me later in the future, which, of course, once again, our son doesn't deserve that, but he also doesn't deserve that either. Kyle doesn't. So it was a long process, but I so appreciate the way that you, Anthony and Heather, that you walked us through it, because what you didn't just meet with us one time and give us, okay, this is what you need to do. Good luck. You walked us through step by step, renouncing soul ties, and
Mhm.
that was a major thing, was renouncing the soul ties that we had made, both me and him. And because Lord knows I'm not perfect. I was not perfect during this entire time either. Um, so just renouncing all of that and walking us step by step into this,
Mhm.
that really made us, that really helped us. But then once that healing started, it actually started with our son, with James. That's when he started having night terrors. And that terrified me. Um, Waking up to my son screaming, saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And I'm right there. His eyes are open. And I'm like, "Hey, baby, what? I'm right here. I'm right here. What's going on?" Um, and I can't wake him up. And Kyle's over here is telling me, "Hey, you're not going to be able to wake him up. I think this is a night terror." Like, what in the world is a night terror? I've heard of a nightmare, but you just wake him up and tell him it's a bad dream and go back to bed. This is not normal.
And of course,
Psalm
at that,
91, the terrors that come by night.
yeah,
Yes.
and of course, at that time, my sister and I had them, so I thought it was hereditary. I didn't think it was anything. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, hey, he's dadgummit. I didn't think he was going to get that, but I guess he's got that, and we'll just deal with it. That's kind of, I brushed it off. I didn't think anything of it. And then that's when Cass reached out to you guys saying, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah. So y'all were
Yeah.
praying over him. We actually had a community group here, locally, and they laid hands on him and prayed over him as well. And after that, the night terrors stopped. But then he started saying that he sees grandma in the corner of his room. I'm like, what in the world do you mean you're seeing grandma in the corner of your room? Like, that
and
already
and
is like, I'm out.
and when he's describing this, because your mom, you're thinking your mother, and he's describing someone who turns out to be Kyle's mom, correct?
Right. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he
So
Who
I
does.
actually
has
thought
not
he
been
was
here.
describing my grandmother, who had recently passed away. I'm like, and we've shown him pictures of her. But I mean, he's 2 years old, so we're not thinking much of it. But then he starts saying that grandma hurts him sometimes at night and that grandma's scary. And as soon as we hear that and we're having prayers over that, then all of a sudden grandma turns nice and he wants to play with grandma.
Yeah.
And that's when we started talking about that. We're like, "Hey, what's in your house that's causing this familiar spirit to be here. And when I heard the word familiar spirit, all the red alarms, it was, I was thinking the worst. And I mean, they are kind of the worst, but that's when we really got scared. But we had Joseph on the phone, we had y'all on the phone, and we were renouncing, we were praying, we were declaring.
Went to war.
We did.
It was a
Yeah.
war. It was full on war. Kyle lost his words completely during prayer.
Never
I really want to get dig into more than into that, because that right there was the spiritual part. I mean, we can do the renouncing and the soul ties, and yes, those are spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
But the real deal was when we had to go to bat against the
Yes.
spiritual entity, literally.
Mhm.
But I think, honestly, we're going to head into part 2 for this. If y'all are willing to come back next week and join us,
Mhm.
Yes.
we would love to have you back on, because I really think that if we can dig more into that, people are going to understand a little more about what we're talking about. We're not talking about ghosts and goblins and all the things, but spiritual
Right.
warfare is real, and spirits. I mean, first of all, in Ephesians,
Colin's coming up.
it
It's gonna be
is.
worse.
And Ephesians tells us, that we do not wrestle flesh and blood,
Mhm.
that we wrestle principalities and evil forces of the darkness. And so it's
We
real.
witnessed that.
And we
Yeah,
did.
it's
We all
real.
did. And so
There's two things we'll go on next week. We'll start with the surrender part that led to that, because
yeah.
if the listeners will pay attention, or if they were paying attention, nothing really went until you both surrendered. And
Yeah,
then we
right.
went together. It wasn't together. You both surrendered separately, which I believe 180% that whenever people surrender something, it's something happens. It's like something is moved. I've always heard this. When you do something, initiate Holy Spirit, then He moves, and once He moves, the action starts. And so I really believe when people surrender things, and that's the hardest thing. You think it is. People are like, oh, I'll surrender. No, you have to surrender everything. Just like Kyle was talking about, he surrendered stuff that most men would be like, I don't want nobody to know about that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to know about that. But
Mhm.
when you surrender, bring it to the light. The devil can't have it no more.
That's right.
And that's why he was
Speaking
like
it out loud.
full on attack, and he went right after the baby. And so
Mhm.
I hope that all the listeners are gripping like, wait, what's fixing to happen? We'll come back next week. Come back next week, and we'll let
It got
you know.
intense.
It did.
Yeah, and it was more intense than y'all right now the way it is. It was very intense, but yeah, just due to time, um, we will continue on
Yeah, we'll
part 2.
come back next week. We want to thank you all for being here, and don't forget, if you have questions or comments or prayers, we would love to partner with you for prayer. If you're needing that, you can reach out to jagheat23@gmail.com. Don't forget that if God does lay it on your heart to give, that's jag dash ministry at Venmo. And you can also reach us on all the social medias individually and at Jag Ministries on Facebook. And with that, I think we're going to sign off here, and we will see y'all
next week.
next
Thank
week.
y'all for being on tonight, y'all.
Thanks
And
for
we'll
having
see
us.
y'all
Yep.
We'll see y'all next week as well.
Yep.